Greetings and welcome to the Gaming Codex, the show where I try to explain to you all the myriad of words and terms used to describe video games and the video games industry at large. Today's term is that of idle games, and according to a general definition, incremental games, also known as idle games, clickers, or clicking games, are video games whose gameplay consists of the player performing simple actions such as clicking on the screen repeatedly or grinding to earn currency. In some games, even the clicking becomes unnecessary after a time as the game plays itself, including in the player's absence, hence the moniker idle game. This genre was, in a way, created by the likes of Zynga with the farm simulator games for Facebook, which required the player to not really do much. Required little to no actual decision making, problem solving, mostly just placing predefined buildings, usually in predefined places, to gain constantly more revenue in order to build more buildings or make prettier cows. This was satirized in games like Cow Clicker, in which you just clicked on a cow, and then was popularized by the likes of Cookie Clicker, whose creator, Julian Theanot, doesn't even consider it a game necessarily, though it sort of kind of does require you to do more than Dear Esther does, a bit. And since then, it's become an actual thing. Games like Farmville were not described as idle games, but Cow Clicker, Cookie Clicker, those are described that way. They were sort of a bit of a parody of those other games, and yet there was an appeal to it. There was something that people enjoyed, because it spoke to a very simplistic need that people have, that of seeing numbers grow and being excited at seeing those numbers growing without actually doing much for them to grow. It's sort of like an MMO, but without the impression that you're doing something other than grinding and basically just waiting. In that sense, it's maybe better than some MMOs in concept, because at least in idle games, some of them, most of them, you only have problems with monetizations in terms of item molds or with the core gameplay through which you have to grind being bad. This game simply does not have gameplay. One of the games you're going to see in the background is the Universal Paperclip game, which starts by you clicking on a button to make a paperclip and then ends with your production process for creating paperclips, turning the entire universe into paperclips. It takes hours to get to that point, but it is a satisfying journey. It is actually an oddly well-made game, despite the fact that for the majority of it you have really no decision-making capability. You just choose when to make an upgrade based on how many paperclips you already have. Though as it goes on, there is some combat involved. It does require you to design drones made out of paperclips that you send to fight, and if they don't have the right stats, they can be defeated and you will no longer progress. This, I would say, is actually kind of a very involved idle game, because there are some that are a lot less involved than this. They require to do less. But for the most part, you can leave it on autopilot and it will just keep adding paperclips. And unlike most idle games which go on in perpetuity, this one has an ending, which can quickly be turned into a new beginning if you so choose. And if you're still wondering why someone would play an idle game, the quite obvious reason is that people get bored and are not able to run more complicated games, or are unwilling to do so because they're both bored and tired, or they're bored at work and aren't allowed to actually install games on their computer, or they have a phone. In the mobile sector, the majority of games that are built for mobile tend to be heavily influenced by the idle genre, by Farmville. Place a building, you wait, place another building, and things just get done without you. And fundamentally, you are not actually achieving anything. There is no challenge, there is no problem solving, there is little to no engagement with you other than clicking to collect stuff and to place new buildings or add stuff. It's what you play when you are really bored and really lazy. So what is the popular definition then? Well, that would be, isn't that what we do in most MMOs? The idea that you're basically running a game at your computer that you're not playing, you're alt-tabbed, you're doing something else, you're working, while the game on in the background is playing itself, essentially, is a common thing for a lot of MMOs. I've played a lot of them where the best way to actually level up your character, level up their skills, level up their ability to craft items, gather resources, was by running the game in a window on the background while you're doing something actually productive and useful, or maybe even playing a different game. Because the amount of experience required, the amount of enemies you need to kill to reach a certain point to get to an objective was so high that it was a complete waste of your time to do it actively. You would get no enjoyment from it. You would get no thrill, no sensation that, oh, I did something, this was a challenge. No, it was just an endless grind that crushed your soul, your hopes, your dreams, and would make you quit that game in a heartbeat were you to actually try and do it manual. But on the background, when the game played itself, because they had things like counter-attack mechanics, if you stood idle in a spawn area, you would just alt-tab back now and again to heal yourself or to put materials from your inventory to a storage area. When everything was done for you, leaving you with only the enjoyable parts of the game like a dungeon and hanging out with your friends to do something stupid. Now sure, it would have been nice if it didn't need to be turned into an idle game by the players to still be enjoyable, but then to whom would they sell all those double, triple, quadruple EXP scrolls and items that just raise your level and your skills and give you stuff? So you in a way can understand why a free-to-play game would do something like this for money, because otherwise nobody's getting paid, there's no way to keep the lights on and the game's gonna die. Why some paid games with monthly taxes also turn out to be more enjoyable when left to idle is kind of a conundrum that should be one day resolved, maybe. But then there's the marketing definition, which is what we've been doing to mainstream games lately. There really isn't much of an incentive to not make idle type features in more mainstream games. I think they now call them lifestyle games, where you just go to a place and start grinding by just clicking something a couple of times and out pops treasure that you can use. MMOs are basically where this is being implemented in a big way for a reason that I've already told you in the previous section. It encourages people to buy stuff, and it also, well, it does have a positive aspect. It requires you to have very limited action in the actual game. No effort. Well, to some people, clicking may be an effort. It was to me when I was paralyzed. But little enough effort so that anybody could do it. And you still have sort of the sense that, oh, I'm progressing. I'm doing something at least. I'm getting there. It's all smoke and mirrors, because the there you would want to get to is incredibly far away and will always be replaced by a new there with a higher level, a higher skill cap, in a never-ending treadmill. So yeah, there's a positive there, not necessarily a great positive, but it's there. You kinda wish it wasn't, especially in the mobile sector, but mobile games have been and probably will always be the place where only a few isolated gems of creativity exist and the rest is just a sea of clickers, idols, and things so unrecognizable as video games that they make cookie clickers seem like a game. So closes this edition of the Gaming Codex. Come back next time and we'll talk about a brand new subject. Goodbye.